The Ambassador's Fear. Ambassador Zaylan's 3 hearts beat in an uncomfortable rhythm as he watched the human delegation disembark from their shuttle. The docking bay of Nexus Prime Station hummed with its usual activity, but to Zaylan, everything seemed muted except for the approaching figures. His silvery scales, normally smooth and reflective, had taken on a dull, anxious sheen. The Korvathi people were known throughout the galaxy for their diplomatic prowess and their ability to read the intentions of other species. But these humans unsettled him in ways he could not fully articulate. The human leading the delegation was a female named Dr. Sarah Chen. She wore simple clothing by Galactic standards, dark pants, a white shirt, and a jacket bearing the emblem of the Terran Diplomatic Corps. She was not particularly large, standing perhaps 1.7 meter tall, with dark hair pulled back from her face. Her skin was a warm brown tone, and her eyes were dark and calm. She moved with an economy of motion that reminded Zaylan of something, though he could not immediately place what. When she smiled at him in greeting, her teeth were flat and white, save for 4 slightly pointed canines that served as a reminder of something his instincts found deeply troubling. Zaylan had prepared for this meeting for weeks, ever since the incident on the frontier colony of New Hebrides. The incident that had sent shockwaves through the Galactic Council and had brought humanity's true nature into sharp, frightening focus. He forced his diplomatic training to the forefront of his mind and extended his hand in the human gesture of greeting. Dr. Chen's grip was firm but not crushing, her skin warm to the touch. Up close, Zaylan could see the fine details of her face, the slight lines around her eyes, the way her pupils contracted in the station's bright lighting, the steady rhythm of her breathing. "Ambassador Zaylan," she said, her voice pleasant and modulated. "Thank you for agreeing to host these proceedings. We understand the position this puts the Bani Korvathi in, given your neutrality agreements with the Xylos Empire." Xylos's translator implant rendered her words in perfect Korvathi, but he found himself studying the movement of her lips, the way her facial muscles shifted to form expressions. Humans were remarkable mimics, he had learned. They could smile while planning violence, could speak softly while preparing for war. It was one of many things that frightened him about them. "The Korvathi serve all members of the Galactic Council," Xylos C. replied, his voice carefully neutral. "We provide space for dialogue and resolution. This matter concerns the entire galaxy, not merely humanity and the Xylos." Dr. Chin nodded, and Xylos gestured for her delegation to follow him deeper into the station. As they walked through the corridors, other species gave the humans a wide berth. A Quelan family pressed themselves against the wall, their fur standing on end. A group of Mithari traders found sudden interest in a nearby viewport. Even the usually fearless Borleith station security seemed to find reasons to patrol other sections. The humans noticed, Xylos was certain, but they gave no indication of concern or offense. The conference chamber was a marvel of Korvathi engineering, designed to accommodate dozens of different species in comfort. Xylos had arranged for human-appropriate seating and had ensured the atmospheric composition was exactly to their specifications. Dr. Chin thanked him for his consideration, then settled into her chair with that same economical grace. Her delegation followed suit, 5 other humans who represented various aspects of their civilization: military, science, culture, economics, and law. "Before we begin formal proceedings," Xylos said, activating the chamber's privacy shields, "I must confess something, Dr. Chin. I am afraid of your species." The humans exchanged glances, and to Xylos's surprise, Dr. Chin nodded slowly. "I appreciate your honesty, Ambassador. Many species are, though few admit it so directly. May I ask what specifically concerns you?" Zaylan's scales rippled with the colors of distress, an involuntary response he could not fully control. 3 months ago, a single human colonist on New Hebrides fought off a Xylos raiding party. Not with advanced weapons or power armor, but with simple tools and his bare hands. He killed 4 Xylos warriors, 4 of the galaxy's most feared predators, creatures who have toppled governments and terrorized entire sectors. And he did it alone. Dr. Chen's expression remained, but something flickered in her eyes. Marcus Webb, he was a farmer ambassador. He was protecting his family. A farmer, Zaylan repeated, his voice hollow. Your farmers kill apex predators with farming equipment. What do your soldiers do, Dr. Chen? Before she could answer, the chamber's communication system chimed. The Xylos delegation had arrived. Zaylan felt his scales go completely flat against his body, a Corvati fear response he had not experienced since childhood. The Xylos terrified most species in the galaxy, and with good reason. They were massive, standing nearly 3 men-hour tall with 4 arms ending in claws that could rend metal. Their exoskeletons were naturally armored, their mandibles could crush bone, and their compound eyes could track multiple targets simultaneously. They were born warriors, raised in a culture that valued strength and combat prowess above all else. They had never lost a war, never been conquered, never been successfully challenged until Marcus Webb, a human farmer, had killed 4 of them. The Xylos delegation entered the chamber, and Zaylan had to remind himself to breathe. War leader Crixin Akai dominated the space, his dark purple exoskeleton polished to a mirror sheen, his battle honors carved into his chest plate. Behind him came 6 other Xylos, each a proven warrior, each carrying themselves with the confidence of beings who sat at the top of the galactic food chain. They took their positions across from the humans, and for a long moment the 2 species simply regarded each other. Zaylan had studied human expressions extensively in preparation for this meeting. He saw no fear in their faces. Dr. Chen met Krill's gaze steadily, her posture relaxed but alert. The human military representative, a man named Colonel James Rodriguez, actually smiled slightly, though Zaylan noted it did not reach his eyes. It was the smile of a predator recognizing another predator. Humans. Krill's voice resonated through the chamber, his translator rendering his clicks and chittering into Galactic Standard. Your species has committed an offense against the natural order. One of your kind has slain 0 warriors without honor, without proper challenge. This cannot stand unanswered. Dr. Chen leaned forward slightly. War leader, Marcus Webb acted in defense of his family. He used the tools available to him. There was no dishonor in his actions. You misunderstand, Krill's said, his mandibles in what might have been amusement or anger. We do not speak of dishonor. We speak of impossibility. Humans are not apex predators. Your species lacks natural weapons, lacks armor, lacks the size and strength of true hunters. Yet one of your farmers killed 4 Xylo warriors. This should not be possible. Colonel Rodriguez spoke up, his voice carrying a hint of steel beneath its calm surface. And yet it happened. Yes, Krill's agreed. Which is why we have issued our challenge. The Zero Empire demands proof of predation. We will know if humans are truly capable of hunting us, or if Marcus Webb was an anomaly, a fortunate accident. We challenge humanity to send 7 of your warriors to face 7 of ours in single combat. No armor, no projectile weapons, only what your bodies can do. We will fight to the death, and we will learn the truth. Zaylan's scales flashed with alarm colors. War leader, the Galactic Council cannot sanction such violence. There are protocols, procedures for resolving such disputes. The Zero Empire does not answer to the Council in matters of honor, Krill said dismissively. We have issued our challenge to humanity directly. They may accept or decline. If they decline, we will know they are not predators, merely scavengers who got lucky. The galaxy will know. Dr. Chen was quiet for a long moment, her eyes never leaving Krill face. When she finally spoke, her voice was soft, but carried throughout the chamber. War Leader, I want to make certain I understand the terms. 7 humans, 7-0, single. Combat? No technological weapons? To the death. And you want this broadcast throughout the galaxy as proof of humanity's predatory capability, correct? Krill Sneck confirmed. And if we win? The Zero War Leader's mandibles clicked in what was definitely amusement this time. If you win, humanity will be recognized as apex predators, worthy of respect and caution. Your colonies will be left in peace. The Zero Empire will sign a non-aggression treaty with your Terran Federation. And if we lose, then the galaxy will know the truth. Humans are not predators. You are prey that has gotten above yourselves. Your expansion will be curtailed, your colonies open to challenge. Krill Sneck leaned forward, his massive form casting a shadow over the human delegation. But you will not win, Dr. Chen. The Zero are the apex predators of this galaxy. We have held that position for 3,000 years. No species has ever defeated us in honest combat. Zeylan watched Dr. Chen's face carefully. He saw no fear, no hesitation. Instead, she seemed almost sad, as if Krill Sneck had confirmed something she had hoped would not be true. She looked to her delegation, and each human gave a small nod. Then she turned back to the Zero War Leader. We accept your challenge, War Leader Krill Sneck. 7 humans will face 7-0 on your chosen ground. We have only one condition. Name it. The humans we send will be volunteers, not professional soldiers. They will be ordinary citizens of the Terran Federation, people from various walks of life. If we are to prove that humanity as a species is capable of predation, it should not be merely our warriors who demonstrate this. It should be our teachers, our farmers, our artists, people like Marcus Webb. Crixon AK's compound eyes gleamed. You would send civilians against our greatest warriors? This is either supreme confidence or supreme foolishness. Perhaps both, Dr. Chin said quietly. When will this trial take place? 1 standard week from today, on Zero Prime in the proving grounds where our warriors have trained for millennia. The entire galaxy will watch. We will broadcast every moment. The meeting concluded shortly after, details and logistics to be worked out by subordinates. As the Zero delegation departed, Zeylan noticed that none of the humans seemed particularly troubled by what they had just agreed to. If anything, they seemed grimly determined, as if accepting an unpleasant but necessary task. After the Zero had left, Zeylan approached Dr. Chin. With respect, Doctor, I do not understand. Your species. The Zero are offering you a way out. You could claim Marcus Webb was enhanced or specially trained or benefited from some unknown factor. Instead, you are sending ordinary civilians to face the galaxy's most dangerous warriors. Why? Dr. Chin was silent for a moment, looking at something Zeylan could not see, perhaps remembering something from her species' long history. When she spoke, her voice carried a weight that made Zeylan's scales ripple with unease. Ambassador, do you know what kind of predator humans are? We are not ambush predators like the Zero, striking from surprise with overwhelming force. We are not pack hunters who bring down prey through coordination alone. We are pursuit predators, Ambassador. We are the monsters that never stop coming. We are the nightmare that chases you until you can run no more, until your body fails, until you have nothing left. And then we are still there, still coming, still hunting. She smiled, and Zeylan saw in that smile something that made his 3 hearts skip beats. The Xylans want proof of predation. They want to know if we are truly dangerous. By the end of this week, Ambassador, they will have their answer. The entire galaxy will, and I pray that answer brings peace rather than more fear. As the human delegation left the chamber, Zeylan stood alone in the vast space, his scales cycling through colors of distress and contemplation. He had spent the week since the New Hebrides incident researching humanity, digging through their history, their biology, their psychology. What he had found had not reassured him. Humans had evolved on a death world, a planet where the environmental conditions constantly tried to kill them. They had survived ice ages, droughts, predators larger and stronger than themselves, diseases that should have wiped them out. They had not just survived, they had thrived. They had learned to track prey across vast distances, to hunt animals by chasing them until the animals collapsed from exhaustion. They had learned to think, to plan, to use tools and strategy to overcome anything that threatened them. Most terrifying of all, they had learned to never give up. Human history was filled with stories of individuals and groups facing impossible odds and somehow prevailing through sheer determination and refusal to surrender. They had a saying, "It's not the size of the dog in the fight, but the size of the fight in the dog." Zaylan understood now what that meant. The Xylans thought they were proving their superiority, demonstrating once and for all that they sat at the apex of the galactic hierarchy. But Zaylan feared they were about to learn a terrible lesson, one that would change the balance of power throughout known space. The Xylans had challenged humanity to prove they were predators. Zaylan suspected humanity was about to prove they were something far more dangerous. They were survivors, and survival was the only thing they had ever been truly good at. He left the conference chamber and made his way to his private quarters, where he began composing a message to the Korvathi High Council. They needed to prepare for what was coming, for the shift that was about to occur in galactic politics. The age of the Xylos Empire's dominance was ending, though they did not yet know it. In Fern Week, on a proving ground far from Nexus Prime, 7 humans would face 7 Xylo warriors, and the galaxy would never be the same. The proving ground. The proving ground on Xylo Prime was a monument to martial prowess. Carved from black volcanic stone, the arena stretched 200 meters in diameter, its floor polished smooth by 3,000 years of combat. Towering observation platforms surrounded the space, each filled to capacity with representatives from every major species in the galaxy. Holographic projectors ensured that billions across hundreds of worlds would witness what was about to unfold. The air itself seemed to vibrate with anticipation and tension. Ambassador Zaylan stood in the Korvathi observation section, his scales reflecting the harsh red light of Xylo Prime's sun. Beside him, diplomats from the Quilon Confederacy, the Mithari Trade Union, and the Borlith Security Collective maintained a nervous silence. All eyes were fixed on the 7 humans who had just entered the arena from the eastern gate. They were not what Zaylan had expected, though he was no longer certain what he should expect from humans. The 7 volunteers came from vastly different backgrounds, united only by their willingness to answer their species' call. First came Dr. Elena Vasquez, a xenobiologist who specialized in studying predator species. She was 43 standard years old, of medium height, with dark hair streaked with gray and calm brown eyes that surveyed the arena with scientific interest rather than fear. She wore simple athletic clothing and moved with the careful precision of someone who had spent years observing how predators moved. Next was James Patterson, a high school mathematics teacher from Earth. He was younger, perhaps 35, with pale skin that looked almost luminous under Zero Prime's red sun and sandy haircut, short. His wire-frame glasses reflected light as he adjusted them nervously, but his jaw was set with determination. Zaylan had read his file. Patterson had 3 children at home and had volunteered because he wanted them to live in a galaxy where humanity was respected rather than dismissed. The 3rd human was Maria Santos, a civil engineer who had designed water systems for colony worlds. She was stocky and powerfully built, with bronze skin and black hair tied in a practical braid. Her hands were calloused from years of physical work, and she carried herself with the confidence of someone who solved problems for a living. She had lost her brother in a Zero raid 5 years ago and had quietly requested to be considered for this mission. Fourth came Dr. David Kim, a trauma surgeon from New Seoul Colony. He was thin and wiry, with quick movements and sharp eyes that seemed to catalog everything they saw. He had treated Marcus Webb after the New Hebrides incident and had seen firsthand what the human body could endure and inflict. He wore a small medical patch on his shoulder, a habit from his profession that he apparently could not break even here. The fifth volunteer was Hannah O'Connor, an agricultural specialist who had spent 15 years terraforming and farming on frontier worlds. She was tall and lean, with red hair pulled back in a ponytail and skin weathered by years under various suns. Her hands were strong, her movements economical, and she had the patient look of someone who understood that growth took time but always came eventually. Sixth was Marcus Okafor, a sculptor and artist who had created monuments on a dozen worlds. He was massive by human standards, nearly 2 meters tall and heavily muscled from years of working with stone and metal. His dark skin gleamed with health, and his movements had a surprising grace for someone of his size. He had volunteered, his file said, because he believed beauty required strength to protect it. The seventh and final human was Sarah Lynn, a university student studying xenopsychology. She was the youngest at 24, small and seemingly delicate, with black hair and dark eyes that studied the xylos with academic fascination. She had written her thesis on predator behavior patterns across species and had specifically requested to participate when she learned of the challenge. Her professors had tried to dissuade her, but she had pointed out that observation was useless without application. These 7 humans, these ordinary citizens, stood in the center of the proving ground and looked up at the thousands of beings watching them. They did not posture or boast. They simply waited with an eerie patience that made Xylan scales ripple with unease. The western gate opened with a grinding of stone on stone, and the 7 Xylo champions emerged. These were not ordinary warriors. These were legends of the Empire, each with dozens of kills to their name, each a master of combat who had trained since birth for this moment. War leader Crixena Akai led them, his dark purple exoskeleton adorned with the carved names of his victories. Beside him came Thraknell, the Unbreakable, whose armor bore the scars of 100 battles, none of which had defeated him. Then Zelkara the Swift, Mornthak the Crusher, Kixraw the Silent Death, Vornek the Merciless, and finally Thaxnor the Bone Render. Each Xylo stood nearly 3 meters tall. Each possessed 4 arms tipped with claws that could pierce combat armor. Each had mandibles powerful enough to crush steel. Their compound eyes tracked the humans with predatory focus, calculating, assessing, anticipating easy victories. They had trained their entire lives for combat. They were perfect killing machines, products of a warrior culture that had dominated the galaxy for millennia. The humans looked like children standing before them, fragile, soft, utterly outmatched. A holographic referee appeared at the center of the arena, a neutral AI construct provided by the Galactic Council. Its voice boomed across the proving ground and across the billions of viewers watching throughout known space. The terms are established. 7 against 7, single combat, no technological weapons, fight until death or surrender. Combatants acknowledge the rules. The Xylos acknowledge. Krill Snek Eye's voice rumbled like thunder. Humanity acknowledges, Dr. Vasquez said quietly, her voice somehow carrying despite its softness. The holographic referee vanished. For a moment, perfect silence filled the arena. Then Krill Snek Eyes raised one clawed hand and gestured. The Xylos charged. They moved. with terrifying speed, their powerful legs propelling them across the arena floor in great bounding strides. The sound of their claws striking stone echoed like war drums. They spread out, each selecting a human target, preparing to end this quickly and demonstrate Xylo's superiority once and for all. The humans did not charge to meet them. Instead, they moved in a coordinated pattern that seemed almost choreographed, spreading out in a loose circle, creating distance, forcing the Xylos to commit to individual pursuits. It was Dr. Vasquez who had suggested this strategy during their brief preparation period. Make them chase, make them expend energy, make them angry. Thraknok, the unbreakable, targeted Maria Santos, the engineer. He closed the distance in seconds, all four arms raised to tear her apart. Maria did not try to fight him directly. Instead, she dropped low and rolled to the side at the last possible moment, using his momentum against him. As he thundered past, she lashed out with her leg, striking the back of one of his knees. It was not a powerful blow. She simply did not have the strength to truly hurt him, but it was precisely placed, hitting the joint at exactly the right angle to disrupt his stride. Thraknok stumbled, caught himself, and spun around with a roar of fury. Maria was already running, not in panic, but with purpose, leading him away from the other combatants, forcing him to chase her. The massive Xylo warrior pursued, his pride stung by the human's audacity. Across the arena, Zelkara the Swift had chosen Sarah Lynn as his target, perhaps seeing the small student as the easiest kill. He was fast, incredibly fast, closing the gap between them in heartbeats. Sarah did not run. Instead, she stood her ground and watched him come with those dark, analytical eyes. At the last moment before he reached her, she suddenly fell forward, dropping flat to the ground. Zelkara, moving at full speed, tried to stop and adjust his attack. His momentum betrayed him. He stumbled over the prone human, and as he did, Sarah's hand shot out and grabbed one of his lower limbs, her fingers finding a gap in his exoskeleton joint. She squeezed and twisted with surprising strength, and Zelkara felt something tear. It was a minor injury, barely worth noticing, but it was an injury nonetheless, from a human, from prey. He spun and lashed out with his claws, and Sarah rolled away, coming to her feet 5 mer distant. She was smiling slightly, her head tilted as if confirming a hypothesis. Zelkara charged. Again, faster this time, angry now. War leader Krixenakai had chosen Dr. Vasquez as his opponent, recognizing her as the leader. He approached more cautiously than his companions, having seen how quickly the humans moved despite their small size. Dr. Vasquez backed away from him, her eyes never leaving his face, or rather, the arrangement of his compound eyes. She was reading him, Zaylon realized with a start. She was studying his body language, his movements, looking for patterns. Krixenakai lunged, all four, arms striking in a coordinated pattern that should have been impossible to avoid. Dr. Vasquez twisted her body in a way that looked painful, making herself impossibly thin, and 3 of his claws passed through empty air. The 4th grazed her shoulder, drawing first blood. The crowd gasped, but Dr. Vasquez barely seemed to notice. She was already moving, her hand darting out to touch one of Crixus and Akael's eyes, not hard enough to damage, but enough to make him blink reflexively and pull back. "Interesting," she said as if conducting an experiment. "Your reaction time to eye stimulus is approximately 0.2 seconds. Useful to know." Crixus and Akael felt something he had not experienced in years: uncertainty. The human was analyzing him, studying him like a specimen. Even as he prepared to kill her, she was learning from him. The combat continued, and a pattern began to emerge that disturbed every observer watching. The Zira were stronger, faster, better armed. They landed hits, drew blood, inflicted injuries, but the humans did not stop. More disturbingly, they did not fight like prey. They fought like predators who understood they were physically outmatched and had planned accordingly. James Patterson, the math teacher, was facing Kicksrow, the silent death. He had taken several cuts, blood streaming from wounds on his arms and chest, but his eyes remained calculating. He was counting, Zalen realized. Counting Kicksrow's attack patterns, measuring the time between strikes, calculating distances and angles. And with each exchange, Patterson moved with more confidence, anticipating attacks a fraction of a second before they came, turning lethal strikes into glancing blows. Dr. Kim, the surgeon, was engaged with Mornthax, the crusher. He moved like water, flowing around attacks, and every time Mornthax struck, Dr. Kim's hands would flash out to touch pressure points on the Zira's exoskeleton. The touches seemed meaningless at first, but Zalen noticed that Mornthax was slowing down. His movements were becoming less coordinated. Dr. Kim was striking nerve clusters, causing cumulative damage that was gradually shutting down the massive warrior's motor functions. Hannah O'Connor, the farmer, was locked in combat with Vornek the Merciless. She had the patience of someone who had spent years waiting for crops to grow, and she used it now. She retreated, dodged, deflected, never committing to a full attack, just small strikes to joints and weak points. Vornek grew increasingly frustrated, his attacks becoming wilder, less controlled. Hannah was doing to him what farmers had done to predators for millennia. She was wearing him down. Marcus Okafor, the sculptor, faced Thex Mar, the bone render. Marcus had taken the most damage of any human, his massive frame covered in cuts and bruises, but he seemed entirely unbothered. He moved like he was shaping stone, each motion deliberate and purposeful. When Thex Mar struck, Marcus would partially block, partially deflect, absorbing force on his heavily muscled arms and shoulders. And slowly, methodically, he was driving Thex Mar backward, using his size and mass to control the space. 10 minutes passed, then 20. The Zero should have won by now. They had superior weapons, superior armor, superior training. But the humans were still standing, still fighting, still learning from every exchange, and something was happening to the Zero warriors. They were breathing harder, moving slower. The humans, bleeding and battered, somehow seemed fresher, their movement still quick and precise. It was Sarah Lynn who struck the first decisive blow. She had spent the entire fight evading Zelkera, studying his patterns, watching how he moved. Now she suddenly changed tactics. As he charged again, she did not dodge. Instead, she stepped inside his reach, closer than he expected, and drove her thumb into the same joint injury she had caused earlier. But this time, she pushed harder, twisted further, and there was an audible crack as something broke. Zelkera screamed, a high, chittering sound that echoed across the arena. His lower right arm hung useless, and Sarah was already moving, circling behind him, striking the backs of his knees with precise kicks. He fell, and she was on him, her hands finding gaps in his armor, her fingers pressing into nerve clusters Dr. Kim had identified during the human's brief planning session. "Do you surrender?" she asked him quietly. Zelkara's pride would not allow it. He tried to rise to fight, but his body would not obey. Sarah Lynn, the small university student, had systematically dismantled one of the Zero Empire's legendary warriors using nothing but observation and applied knowledge. The shift in the battle was palpable. The humans, sensing victory was possible, pressed their advantages. Dr. Vasquez, her shoulder bleeding but her eyes bright with predatory focus, began to attack rather than merely evade. Every movement was efficient, targeting the same spots repeatedly, building damage, exploiting weaknesses. Crixus Nakai found himself on the defensive for the first time in his life, confused by this impossible reversal. James Patterson's mathematical approach paid off. He had calculated exactly how much energy Kai's Ral expended per attack, how long the warrior could maintain maximum speed. Now, as Kai's row slowed from exhaustion, Patterson struck back with the methodical precision of someone solving an equation. A punch to a damaged joint, a kick to an overextended limb. Each strike purposeful, each movement adding up to an inevitable conclusion. Dr. Kim had reduced Mornthak the Crusher to stumbling confusion. The massive warrior's nervous system compromised by dozens of precise strikes. Hannah O'Connor had turned Vornek's fury against him, letting him exhaust himself on fruitless attacks, while she remained calm and patient. Marcus Okafor had done the impossible. He had matched Thax's Nor blow for blow, and through sheer endurance had outlasted him. Maria Santos, bleeding from multiple wounds but still moving with engineers, precision had led Thraknal the Unbreakable on a chase across the entire arena. Now, as he slowed from exhaustion, she turned to face him. She was smaller, weaker, injured, but she was still standing, and he was gasping for breath, his massive body overheated and exhausted from the pursuit. "It's over," she told him quietly. "You can surrender." Thraknath charged one final time, cried demanding he try. Maria sidestepped, grabbed one of his arms, used his own momentum to guide him to the ground, and pressed her knee against his throat. Not hard enough to kill, but enough to make the point. She could kill him if she chose. Across the arena, similar scenes played out. The Xylo's warriors, these legendary champions, were defeated not by superior strength, but by superior strategy, endurance, and an utterly alien refusal to give up no matter how badly hurt they were. One by one they fell or surrendered, and the 7 humans stood victorious in the center of the proving ground. The silence that followed was absolute. Xylan's scales had gone completely flat, a response to shock so profound he could barely process what he had witnessed. Around him, diplomats from dozens of species sat in stunned disbelief. On 1,000 worlds, billions of viewers tried to comprehend what they had just seen. War leader Krill Xene, bleeding from a dozen wounds, his armor cracked, his pride shattered, rose slowly to his feet. Dr. Vasquez stood before him, barely able to stand herself, but still upright through sheer will. Krill Xene studied her for a long moment, then performed something no Xylo had done in recorded history. He bowed to an opponent. "We asked for proof of predation," his voice carried across the arena. "We have received it. Humanity, you are not apex predators in the way we understood the term. You are something different, something we did not account for. You are pursuit predators. You do not need to be the strongest or the fastest. You simply need to never stop. And you never stop." Dr. Vasquez inclined her head respectfully. "War leader, we did not want this fight. We wanted peace. We want peace still. We are predators, yes, but we are also more than that. We are survivors, and we survive best when we cooperate rather than compete." Crix sent a case, mandibles clicked in what might have been respect or might have been sadness. "The Zero Empire will honor the terms of our challenge. Humanity will be recognized as apex predators. Your colonies will be left in peace. We will sign the non-aggression treaty." He paused, looking at the other 6 humans standing among the fallen Zero warriors. "But know this, Dr. Vasquez, the galaxy will fear you now. They have seen what you are truly capable of. They have seen that you send your teachers, your farmers, your students to do what others send their greatest warriors to do. That is more terrifying than any display of strength could ever be." The holographic referee reappeared. "The challenge is concluded. Humanity has proven their predatory capability. The terms are satisfied." As medical teams rushed onto the field to tend to both Zero and human wounded, Xalan found himself reflecting on what he had witnessed. The humans had not won through superior violence or natural weapons. They had won through intelligence, adaptability, endurance, and most frightening of all, through cooperation. 7 humans from completely different backgrounds had worked together flawlessly, each contributing their unique skills and knowledge to achieve victory. Dr. Vasquez, the scientist, had analyzed and strategized. Patterson, the teacher, had calculated and planned. Santos, the engineer, had solved problems. Dr. Kim, the surgeon, had applied medical knowledge in reverse. O'Connor, the farmer, had shown impossible patience. Okafor, the artist, had demonstrated that creation and destruction used the same strength. And Lin, the student, had learned and adapted faster than should have been possible. Together they had defeated warriors who had trained their entire lives for combat. They had done it while injured, exhausted, and outmatched in every physical category. They had done it because giving up was simply not in their nature. In the days that followed, as the galaxy processed what had occurred on Zero Prime, the balance of power shifted subtly but irrevocably. The Zero Empire, while still powerful, was no longer seen as invincible. Humanity, previously dismissed as fortunate survivors, was now recognized as a species to be treated with caution and respect. The non-aggression treaty was signed, and human colonies reported a dramatic decrease in raids and harassment. Ambassador Zaylan, in his report to the Korvathi High Council, wrote, "We asked humanity to prove they were predators. They proved they were something far more dangerous. They are a species that survived by refusing to die, that conquered their world not through strength, but through persistence. They are patient, intelligent, and utterly relentless. They will pursue their goals with the same determination they pursue their prey, and they will never, ever stop until they achieve them. The galaxy must adjust to this new reality. We are no longer the dominant species by virtue of strength or technology alone. We must now account for will, for determination, for the simple refusal to surrender that defines humanity. This is the true proof of predation they have offered, not that they can kill, but that they cannot be killed. Not that they are strong, but that they will never stop growing stronger. This is what makes them apex predators, not their fangs, but their spirit." Dr. Chin, watching the footage from the arena aboard her ship returning to Earth, allowed herself a small smile. The galaxy had asked for proof, and 7 ordinary humans had provided it. 7 volunteers who represented what humanity truly was. Not warriors, but survivors who would fight when they had to, who would endure what they must, who would never give up no matter the odds. She thought of Marcus Webb, the farmer who had started all of this by simply defending his family. She thought of the millions of other humans living on colony worlds, building lives, raising families, creating art, teaching children, healing the sick, growing food. Ordinary people doing ordinary things until the moment they were forced to be extraordinary. That was humanity's true strength, she realized. Not that they were all warriors, but that any of them could be when necessity demanded it. The galaxy had feared humanity's soldiers. Now they would understand that every human was a potential soldier, because every human carried within them the same relentless survival instinct that had brought them through ice ages, plagues, wars, and extinction events. The proof of predation was not in humanity's ability to kill. It was in their absolute refusal to die. And now the entire galaxy knew it.